Hi, I'm Marcus from the Football Ramble and you're watching The Rail. Spencer is away this week, but don't worry, he'll be back soon. But I've been brought in to talk about the rise of the so-called smaller clubs in European football. We've been to Italy to see how Carpi got on in their first ever Serie A match. We're in Bournemouth to see how they're adapting to life in the Premier League. Plus, we speak to European football journalist Andy Brassel, who explains why so many Minnows are on the rise. First up, Carpi. After 4 promotions in 6 years, they went to Sampdoria on the first day of the new Serie A season.
La società è fallita e siamo ripartiti dall'eccellenza, che è la 6ª serie, dove praticamente eravamo quasi l'unica tifoseria.
E l'abbiamo fatto sia da quando eravamo in eccellenza che da quando siamo andati in Serie A. Noi seguiremo il Carpi in qualsiasi campo d'Italia, d'Europa o del mondo.
5-6 anni fa è cominciata questa scalata dalla D alla C2, la C2 alla C1, siamo arrivati in B che era il massimo obiettivo storico, il Carpi non era mai riuscito ad arrivare in B in più di 100 anni.
Da lì e la gente è esplosa, sì, era una cosa bellissima, cioè si faceva trasferte in C2 in 400, 300, cioè veramente bello.
Cioè il calcio non mi è mai piaciuto, però da quando ho scoperto il Carpi, anche quando ero in C2, da lì mi sono appassionato, cioè mi fa ancora schifo il calcio, però è bello comunque andare in trasferta con gli amici, quello è l'importante, divertirsi.
This one could be the best way, you know, with your friend, drinking, eating, singing, beautiful.
Con la normalità si può riuscire, chiaro, ci vuole un progetto, ci vuole delle persone in gamba, però anche senza spendere delle follie si possono raggiungere risultati impensabili.
Per noi salvarsi è una vittoria.
Neanche nei sogni quando ero bambino, perché siamo una squadra troppo piccola, non siamo mai neanche stati in Serie B, in 2 anni siamo arrivati in Serie A ed è veramente incredibile. 3! Forza Carpi, forza Carpi, forza Carpi, forza Carpi,
Despite the result, great stuff from Carpi though. At least they got 2 goals and their fans were absolutely brilliant. And they're off and running in Serie A, Andy. And they're not the only small side that are in Europe's top leagues at the moment, are they?
Yeah, they're not the only one in Serie A. You've got Frosinone who've come up to the top flight for the first time as well. In Germany, you have Darmstadt, you have Gazalec Ajaccio.
Still got Eibar in Spain.
Yeah, that's right. Who are top of the league after 1 game.
Incredible stuff.
After winning at Granada 3-1.
And you've also got Bournemouth in England, of course. Much has been made about that. So there's Minnows, as the word is that we call these smaller teams. There's little teams all across Europe playing in the top divisions. All of a sudden, why is that happening?
Well, I think it's that old quote about keeping your head while others are losing theirs. in that, you know, there's such pressure to try and get to the top flight that teams can get overexcited, clubs can get overexcited and overstretch themselves. And I think you look at the bulk of these clubs and they're exceedingly well run. I think if you look in the second tier of a lot of big countries, there are huge clubs who've just got themselves in a terrible state. You know, you look in Germany, for example, and the competition should be someone like 1860 Munich, but you know, they're in financial trouble, so they were forced to give up their share of the Allianz Arena to Bayern. So I think these smaller clubs are benefiting from having quite poorly run, sort of bigger and, you know, in theory, senior clubs around them.
We must make the point that some of these smaller clubs, they have got up on merit and good organisation. It's not a case of a sugar daddy's come in and piled in loads of money.
Not at all. I mean, Darmstadt and Gazalec is notable in both cases. That they went up on a €5 million annual budget. That's about £3.5 million. And that's to pay your players, the support staff, the coaches, all of that.
It is remarkable, and with Gazalec in France, you were telling me earlier that it's clearly not an expensive operation there, because their training ground is in the middle of nowhere and they don't even have changing rooms. Is that right?
In fact, Julien Laurent of BT Sport was telling me they did a short film on them, and the producer for the film had difficulty finding the training ground because it doesn't have an address. It's a field with a fence around it, a couple of horses grazing next door, no changing rooms, the players get changed under these sort of umbrellas that you get from pub gardens.
It takes me back to Sunday football. Actually, no, we even had change rooms for Sunday football. That's ridiculous. You know?
Exactly, they weren't the cleanest. But,
yeah, okay, fair enough.
It's amazing. I mean, it's all very well in July and August, but what happens when they get to November? Winter can be bitter in Corsica.
The season is underway though. We saw Bournemouth getting their first win away to West Ham. How are these other sides in Europe getting on so far?
It's been tricky for a few of them. Yeah. I mean, at Carapia, we've seen what happened to them.
At least they scored though.
They did.
They're off the mark.
As did Frosinone took the lead against Torino before going down 2-1. Gazalek, it's been tough for them, and their coach actually said last week, after they'd only lost 2-0 at Paris Saint-Germain, which you have to say is a great result.
It's not a bad one, is it?
In the circumstances, people were expecting them to go there and lose 6-7-0. He said, right, now we've played that game, can we actually get on with playing rather than admiring the opposition? Darmstadt started with a couple of draws, and they drew Schalke at the weekend, which, I mean, you know, that's if we're talking about in terms of people coming through the turnstiles, it's like the 6th biggest supported club in Europe. So that's an extraordinary result. Whether they can keep it going is a different question, of course, because of course Paderborn started last season brilliantly, the previous smallest club in the Bundesliga, and you know, they were top of the league when they went for their away game at Bayern Munich in September. They weren't when they left the Allianz, obviously, and they ended up finishing bottom of the table and getting relegated.
It's been great chatting to you, and we certainly look forward to seeing how these so-called Minnows will get on in Europe this season. Top stuff there from Andy Brassel. I'm in Bournemouth now, where they're adapting to life in the Premier League, and the changes that are occurring here are not just on the field of play. The stadium is having a few more bits and pieces added to it, a television studio in the corner, and new floodlights as well for Premier League regulations. Steve Fletcher, it's a pleasure to meet you. You're synonymous with A.F.C. Bournemouth. What's it like now you're in the Premier League? There must be a real buzz around the club.
Yeah, a little bit gutted, I suppose, and disappointed that I retired 5 years too early, or it's come 5 years too late.
Well, you never know if there's a few injuries, you know.
Get you back out of retirement. That to the gaffer. Get him on the training pitch here.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I retired 2 years ago, and we just got into the Championship, and I don't even think we could even foresee in the forthcoming 4 or 5 years of even getting anywhere near the Premier League. So within 2 years of us, you know, accomplishing that, it's surreal, really. Is the only way to describe it. It's phenomenal.
It wasn't that long ago when Bournemouth nearly went out of the Football League, and it was from players like yourself and scoring crucial goals that you kept Bournemouth alive.
Yeah, and maybe the catalyst of what we see today and the position we find ourselves in, not just on the pitch but off it as well. We're flourishing with a fantastic owner who's willing to put his hand in his pocket and help the club. With a manager like Eddie Howe, who's one of the best young managers in England, if not the best, in my opinion. He had a vision for the club, and so did the owner, and then the chief exec and the chairman. Like I say, it's probably come a little bit quicker than anybody anticipated, but you know, it's not as if we didn't deserve it, it's not as if we didn't go about it the right way, and it's not as if we threw stupid money at it. We're a small club, we're the smallest club in the Premier League, and we've got to do things right, and we've got to have this club survive from years and years from now. You know, our philosophy at the club is together anything is possible, and it starts with the manager, and there's nobody, you know, more worthy of that title than him.
Oh, has anything changed with the approach taken with Bournemouth this season as opposed to in the lower leagues of English football?
Our philosophy will never change at the club. The ethos that he's produced over the last couple of years, that stays the same. You know, the work rate, the work ethic of the team. We're not a team of any superstars, really. We've got quality players, good quality players, but like you said, we work as a team. We've got to feel we belong in the Premier League, because 95% of the population doesn't, and totally understandably, totally, because that's the way it is with small clubs coming up who haven't got the revenue and probably the ability to attract the big players in, as well as the, like I say, the money to pay the wages, etc. So we've got to prove a lot of people wrong.
What are the fans kind of saying? Can they not believe their luck, or do they feel, no, we're here on merit, we should be here?
I think a bit of a mixture. I think a lot of people said after the Liverpool game that they felt, right, now the Premier League has actually kicked in, because they'd been to a big club.
And been robbed of a result as well.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, we look back on that and we were very unfortunate to have a goal against us. and one disallowed. So you know, I could have been different on another day.
And for you yourself, as I say, you were there when Bournemouth nearly dropped out of the Football League. They've come all the way back up. At any point, did you ever envisage them in the Premier League?
And I don't think anybody could. Anyone who probably did think that was probably branded deluded, because you know, we're fighting for survival. Every player we got that was half decent, we had to sell. We're a selling club. So nobody could have envisaged what the club's done. We probably couldn't even envisage what we did when we got into the Championship 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. You know, everyone was like, right, let's just sustain ourselves in the Championship, let's cement our position, we become an established Championship club. But obviously the manager had different ideas, and the players.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden we find ourselves at the top of the pile and now in the dreamland, I suppose. Yeah.
There we are. Long may it continue. Steve Fletcher, thank you
Top
very
man,
much for
thank
talking
you very
to us.
much.
Thank you. Marvellous stuff there, and we certainly wish Bournemouth the best for the rest of the season. That's it on our episode on the rise of the Minnows. Hopefully this trend will continue for many a year. Don't forget to subscribe to Copper 90 and leave your comments below and your suggestions for what you'd like to see next on The Rail.